All right, so I'm going to do part 2 of my road to diagnosis with fibromyalgia. So, like I said, after about a year, the medications ran out from the rheumatologist. I decided to just try things on my own and did the trigger point and stretching and exercising and all that. So, between then and now, which is 7 years, somewhere in there, somewhere around the 7-year mark, maybe a little bit more, maybe a little bit less, I'm not sure. Somewhere around 7-year mark, I've kind of tried taking care of this on my own. And one thing you'll find out, or if you have it, or you understand that there's highs and lows, there's peaks and valleys with chronic pain, where like there'll be a couple of weeks where you feel really good and you can do all of the exercising and you're eating right and you feel somewhat normal. So for me, it's like I hurt all the time, every day, all the time, all over. But there's some days where it feels almost normal. So, that'll happen for a while. And then you'll hit a 2-week period. For me, it's usually about 2 weeks. A 2-week period of just feeling like you can't do anything. The energy's gone. The pain is even worse. The IBS issues are worse. The mood is worse. So, that kind of like, you get your highs and your lows. And sometimes you'll figure out there's a pattern to it. So for me, like I've kind of figured out in the last year, 2 years maybe, heat really does do it for me. Summer, and those months leading up to summer are when I feel the worst. The heat, I don't know what it is, but something about that just makes everything to where like I don't feel like I can function anymore. So when those things happen, and I have gone to other doctors kind of since being diagnosed with the rheumatology. I've gone back to an MS doctor because my mom was diagnosed with MS, and she was saying that the symptoms are all pretty much the same as what she has. So she sent me back to another MS doctor, or a neurologist, who this one was better and kind of did all of the tests and all the things. And I had an MRI, had a scan to see if there's any lesions in the brain. She did all of like the tests that they do with the probes and all that, and she said no, there's nothing there, but sent me to a physical medicine doctor who basically will give you prescriptions and things for pain, not necessarily fibromyalgia, but just pain in general. So that was last year, I think I did that, or a year and a half ago, somewhere around there. I think it was about a year ago I started doing that. And again, medicine ran out, and that's when, I'm finally at the point where it's like, I'm done with the medicine. I have one medicine left that I'm taking, the gabapentin, and everything else I'm trying to do with food, with exercise. And one thing I found out over the course of these 8 years is I cannot do the high impact stuff anymore. I did it for a while. I've done things like the Tough Mudders. I've done races. I do 5Ks quite a bit. I worked out with a couple friends who we did some of the CrossFit type stuff. I cannot do high impact stuff. I can't. It messes me up. I did one marathon, which I could not, even training for it, if I got past 4 miles, I couldn't walk for the rest of the day, and I would be in the chair in pain, crying because I could not walk. Like, everything hurt more than just like, oh, I got sore muscles, that run was really long, but you could still walk. I could not walk training for this thing, and I did it, and it took me 5 hours to do this marathon. I got the bursa, the swelling on one knee, and I mean, it was a miserable time. So I've figured out I can't do high impact stuff, but I can do high intensity stuff. So one thing that I have found that really works for me as far as exercising goes is HIIT work, high intensity interval training. So there's all different ways to do it. Again, and if you look on the other channel, there's all different kinds of HIIT workouts that you can do. And I don't know if my style necessarily fits in with the other HIIT works, but I mean, there's high intensity, and then we go back to a low, and then a high, and then a low. And all of the high intensity stuff you can do low impact, as long as you're doing quick movements. You don't have to do a lot of jumping. You don't have to do a lot of bouncing around. You don't have to do like the impact on the floor. So that's what I figured out in the last probably 2 or 3 years. That's what I stick with. Like, that's what I do is HIIT work, Tabatas, intervals, like I'll do 30 seconds, 60 seconds, whatever, 20 seconds of work, and then a rest period, and then a work. And I've started doing a Zumba class a couple years ago with one of my neighbors teaches it, and I absolutely love it. And so that kind of has made its way into what I do. So I found a way to work out to where it doesn't hurt as much as doing like just the high impact stuff. So kind of figuring out what works best for your body. And I'll work out anywhere between 30 minutes to maybe 60 minutes at a time. Like the classes I teach are 60 minutes, but my own personal workouts, 30 to 45 minutes is usually what I do. So finding what works best for you, but the exercising really does help. And I have found the weeks that I feel bad and I stop working out, I start feeling worse by the end of it, and I'm like, okay, I need to get back into the exercising because it really does help keep those muscles loose, keep them active. Rolling out more when you are exercising really helps. The stretching, I do a ton of stretching with the workouts too, so that's a big part of what I do is stretching, which we need to do quite a bit of. And then the food, I have taken out high fructose corn syrup. I mean, anything that has that, which you'll find in salad dressings and barbecue sauces and condiments, and I mean, it's everywhere. So that was like the first thing that I took out. And soda, I haven't had soda in I don't know how many years. So taking out things that can cause irritation. So inflammatory foods too, anything that has additives to it. So processed foods, the packaged foods, I have taken all of that out. I don't eat any processed packaged foods, and it's made a difference. And sticking with the lean protein, so chicken and turkey, and I've a lot of seafood lately. Fresh vegetables, fresh fruit. You can do frozen as long as it doesn't have the sauces and the sweeteners and things added to it. But just really being mindful of what I'm eating, and sometimes it seems like I'm being extra picky, but it really has made a difference. And that's the one thing that I'm working on even more now, which I've started before, taking things out and trying to eat as healthy as I can. But within the last 3 months or so, I've really been diligent about no processed foods. Like I have not had any processed packaged food. Eating out, there's no way around it. I mean, we eat out twice a week with my family. We've had vacations where parents and in-laws and things want to go out to eat. So you have to be really picky when you go out to eat. Making sure that when you order things, you have to be that picky person when you're ordering. Because I've learned my lesson, and again, I've ordered things as they come. I haven't had them take anything off, and I felt horrible for 2 or 3 days after that, versus that same restaurant where I will make sure I say I don't want any seasoning on the meat, I don't want any added butter or anything to the vegetables. Like everything is plain, and then I add my own stuff to it. I don't have any salad dressing when I order the salads because I bring my own. So it's made a huge difference. And I've taken out the alcohol. That was one thing. That was the hard thing, but I took out the alcohol, which it had gotten to where I was using it a little too much for kind of numbing the pain. So I took that out, and it's been really good. So I mean, as we go, I'm going to do even more detailed on specific parts of this, but these first two videos are just the general, like this is, leading up to the diagnosis, and then what you do once you are diagnosed, because it's not going to go away. It's not treatable. It's manageable, and you manage the pain. You don't actually, you can't get rid of fibromyalgia or other chronic pain syndromes, but you can manage them. So these are just kind of the general what I've done once I was told what it was. And there's been good weeks, there's been bad weeks, there's been tough weeks, but you just got to keep going. You got to just keep pushing forward. You can let it consume you, and you can just roll over and feel worse and worse and worse, and just blame it on the fibro. Or you can push through and say, you're gonna do these things. You're gonna exercise despite the fibro or the other chronic pain syndrome. You're gonna keep pushing forward. You're gonna better yourself, because the exercise and the food really do make a huge impact on how well you can manage the pain. So it's not all about like the medications. It's a whole spectrum of the food and the exercise, some medication to do it, stretching, just lifestyle changes. So I hope that, you like this video, and I will do even more with more detail. So stay tuned for those.